The leveling experience in Classic WoW is one of the most defining features of the early game, an exciting time when players explore new areas, learn new abilities, and tackle hundreds of quests on their way to level 60. At the start of the summer, I discussed the human starting experience from level 1 to 30, which has reached an incredible 300,000 views, and since then, I have also received a lot of requests for a part 2 to that video. Today, I humbly present it to you all. The dynamic of the game evolves as you enter its second half, the heroes of Azeroth traveling far away from the starting zones to uncover new mysteries and battle more complex enemies. And yet, for the humans of Stormwind, their core mission is far from over, and the story to bring down the corruption within the kingdom still has many chapters to be told. From the murky waters of Dustwallow Marsh to the dark citadel of Blackrock Mountain, let's uncover the game design choices, lore, and forgotten details that come together to form the greatest journey in World of Warcraft. When we last left off, 30 levels of adventure had yielded some positive results for the humans of Stormwind and their allies. The Defias gang, having long been a thorn in the side of the kingdom, is now in shambles. Their leader, Elwynn Van Cleef, defeated within the Deadmines. Not only that, but the remnants of the gang were also thought to be dispersed, with the rioting prisoners in the stockade subdued, and their secret benefactor in the House of Nobles, Lord Gregor Lescavar, assassinated by Stormwind loyalists. On the fringes of human lands, a variety of additional threats have also been dealt with, from the necromancer Morbant Fell in Duskwood to an invading force of Blackrock orcs in the Red Ridge Mountains. While this certainly seems like a string of victories for the Alliance, a new conspiracy is on the rise, the Missing Diplomat, which does a great job of subtly bringing back some of these threats against the kingdom. During one of your returns to Stormwind, you may encounter Thomas, the altar boy at the Cathedral of Light, who encourages you to seek out Bishop DeLavy in Stormwind Keep. The bishop, a high-ranking supporter of the king, has been discreetly gathering adventurers of promise for a mission of utmost secrecy. Recently, a diplomat was sent to Theramore to meet with Jaina Proudmoore. The diplomat never arrived. I believe the Defias are involved in this plot, but I'm not sure how. The diplomat's disappearance still eludes public attention, but it can't remain that way for long. Agents of the king are already scouring the city for clues, but I have my own contacts I would like involved. Right off the bat, we establish that the Defias Brotherhood might not be as weakened as we first thought, and are now directly going after the nobility. The next few steps of the quest lead you through the streets of Stormwind and eventually back to Duskwood, where Watcher Bacchus of the Night Watch reports on a recent meetup of the Defias that took place at the abandoned Addle's Stead. The bandits are still prowling around there, their only notable presence in the zone in fact, but after driving them off, you're able to loot the Defias docket, which gives us many important details. Our first plan has already failed. Fist was successful in switching the guard roster for the tunnel shifts that evening, but due to some unforeseen events by some of the citizens of Stormwind, our target was able to flee from the scene before we could capture him. But we planned for such contingencies. Plan 2 is just as simple, but will require more patience on our part. Our man on the inside in Menethil has already been paid for his efforts, and he's succeeded brilliantly. We should have no problem acquiring our target and capturing him once we've set sail. Expect the attack to happen a few miles from their destination. That's where our allies will be waiting. I'm not sure why we've been forced to form an alliance with the creatures, but I can't help but feel we're being coerced ourselves. Ultimately, it won't matter. With the target in our custody, we'll be well on our way to taking back Stormwind from those that stole it from us. There are 3 main players to highlight here. A person named Fist who was on the inside during the failed first plan, an agent in Menethil Harbor responsible for the success of the second, and a group of mysterious allies somewhere near the coast of Theramore. Returning to Stormwind, we track down the mysterious Fist mentioned in the docket, in reality the brawler Dashel Stonefist. The mastermind behind Plan A, Dashel confirms the whereabouts of a contact named Slim in Menethil to the north, but not before putting up a fight. After tracking down a retired operative turned barkeeper named Mikhail at the soggy Deepwater Tavern, a similar situation plays out, with one of the bar patrons attempting to sneak out before he can be noticed. Slim doesn't get paid enough to die for the Defias cause though, standing down outside the inn and proceeding to spill the true nature of this plot. They took the king. Yeah, the king of Stormwind, not some lowly diplomat. He was on his way to Theramore. It was a big deal apparently, and a big secret. But it's not just the Defias that are involved. They're working with someone. I think they knew this was bigger than them. My part was just to get their men on board the king's ship while it was still in the harbor. The guy's name was Hendel. That's all I know, I swear. Mikhail is overwhelmed, promising to write to Stormwind while you continue the hunt, suggesting that Hendel may have been a plant within the Theramore Marines who visited Menethil not long ago. This reveal also calls back to the Brotherhood's End story from Part 1. Take this as a token of the king's appreciation. I am only sorry he cannot present it to you himself, but he is away on a diplomatic mission and shall not return for some time. With this massive connection now made, there is only one course to tread, across the Great Sea to Kalimdor. Dustwallow Marsh is a damp footnote in most histories of Azeroth, a dreary land filled with stagnant channels and foul beasts, but there is one beacon of hope for the Alliance here, the Isle of Theramore. It is here where Lady Jaina Proudmoore and her forces deal with a crumbling peace with the Horde, but it seems the traitor Hendel has managed to infiltrate this stronghold. Following the guidance of the local commander Samal, visiting Sentry Point reveals Archmage Turvosh, a friend of Jaina's who directs you to the North Point Tower, where Private Hendel is stationed. The Marine seems earnest in his hatred of the encroaching Horde, but his anger quickly turns to you when questioned. Hello, citizen. If you keep your questions short, I'll see if I can help you. Just keep your eyes open for any of those filthy ogres. What? You come here accusing me of allying with the Defias, and think I'll just stand here while you insult me? Subduing Hendel brings an end to the quest line, with Jaina and her allies warping to the scene to transport the private back for questioning, vowing to find the king in all due haste. From a game design perspective, the path stops here, and you're free to continue questing elsewhere. But from a lore perspective, vanilla WoW players were quick to realize we never got any real answers in this zone. Or did we? This is where the timeline gets a little complicated. Most classic WoW quests have a pretty simple history, added at the start of vanilla and deleted at the start of Cataclysm, but the Missing Diplomat saga has a few more twists and turns that I just can't leave out. Off the coast of Dustwallow Marsh, Alkaz Island hides a great secret. Patrolled by vicious Naga and Hydras, an underground prison can be found here that holds none other than Varian Wrynn, the king of Stormwind. As we know, the Missing Diplomat chain doesn't lead us to him, nor does any other quest in vanilla WoW, making this NPC little more than an Easter egg for brave adventurers, but there is something to be learned here. We now know where Varian ended up after the ship was sunk, and the Strashaz Naga seem to be the mysterious allies listed by the Defias in their docket. How or why the bandits were able to make this alliance is still a mystery, but continuing with the theme throughout this whole adventure, this kidnapping certainly goes deeper than we know. In patch 1.10, with the addition of the tier 0.5 gear set, Varian disappeared from the game, replaced by a Naga warlord, and his fate was left unknown until his eventual return in Wrath of the Lich King. I do find it interesting though, that for just over a year, there was this secret ending to the Missing Diplomat journey, one that only a few would ever find. Believe it or not, this is not the end of the shenanigans regarding this story. During the Burning Crusade, in patch 2.3, the entire zone of Dustwallow Marsh received a much needed glow up, with dozens of new quests, including a chain that was the spiritual successor to the Missing Diplomat. Titled Defias and Dustwallow, it is probably supposed to be set in the same time period as the original, despite being added later on, with players setting out from Theramore to investigate reports of a group of shipwrecked survivors wearing red bandanas. Garn Mathers, leader of the crew, drops a set of orders that heavily points to their involvement in the kidnapping. Garn, I needn't remind you of the importance of your mission. Protect your precious cargo at any cost. Keep the tongue wagging of your associates to a minimum. Heed the crew, and all will be well. I shall await word of your success. These orders were penned on expensive paper, perhaps hinting they came from the traitorous Lord Lescavar himself, or maybe another high-ranking member of the House of Nobles. The way this is written also seems to me that these Defias may have been other undercover deckhands aboard the ship, working to subdue the king and his loyalists at a certain point on the trip. Later in the questline, Wrynn McGill, a salvage diver for Stormwind Intelligence, helps you discover a shipwreck near Alcaz Island, likely the very same one that once held the king. It seems as though the Defias are diving here too, raising some questions if this crew was fully in the know about the Naga's involvement. Were they planning on causing disarray on board the ship on their own, oblivious of the waiting Naga who are going to whisk Varian away? We don't know, but it seems like the mastermind behind this plot dropped the Defias in favor of the Naga once he was in their captivity. You can even find a pair of enchanted handcuffs inside some of the salvage, which Wrynn correctly infers may have been used to transport an important prisoner before the ship sank. Returning to Jaina, this news spurs a reconnaissance run over Alcaz Island by Griffin, which reveals something even more sinister. Yeah, the Naga and Hydras are still present, but flying overhead are a group of black drakes, and a runic circle can be seen at the pinnacle of the island, indicating dark magic may be at play. This goes above and beyond the Defias for sure, but now we see the Naga are pawns of a darker power, and we still don't know the full story behind the powerful benefactors in Stormwind. Jaina tells you to warn High Lord Bolvar Fordragon back home, who is acting as leader of the kingdom in the king's absence. Bolvar is receptive of your urgent message, saying, "With their newfound patronage and apparent role in the king's disappearance, I see no choice but to plan a renewed offensive against the Defias. We will pursue the Defias and their backers until our liege is safely returned." Nearby, Lady Katrana Prester of the House of Nobles is irked, downplaying the Defias threat, which from a certain point of view makes sense. Van Cleef is dead, and most of the localized threats have been dealt with. But it is certainly troubling that Defias have been found as far away as Dustwallow and were involved in such a high-level plan. After speaking to Jaina one more time, the missing diplomat saga truly comes to an end, though we now have even more questions than answers. Defias, Naga, black dragons, and a missing king. How does it all fit together? How deep does the corruption go? These questions and more will be answered, but we have a long way to go. At this point, you may have reached level 35, or maybe a bit less if you just played through the vanilla section of the story, and for a while, the trail goes cold. The deserts of Tanaris, the tranquil hinterlands, and more await, and it won't be until around level 50 when this main story arc picks up again. With one major journey over, let's fast forward to the next, to the lands of fire and ash, where the start of the finale is set to begin. To the north of the Red Ridge Mountains and through the menacing Blackrock Pass lie the Burning Steppes, a land choked in smog and rife with scalding earth. At Morgan's Vigil, the one holdfast of the Alliance in this land, a night elf named Helendis Riverhorn makes an offer. Dispatch the rampaging black dragonkin that encroach nearby, and prove yourself as an ally of merit. This quest is difficult to solo, but breaking this first barrier opens up what I would consider one of the most ambitious stories told within the game. Once you've thinned their numbers in the area, Riverhorn wastes no time in dropping major lore bombs, kicking off the quest line known as the True Masters. It is here, from a humble encampment in the foothills, where the endgame truly begins. We had always assumed that the Blackrock orcs were a product of their savage upbringing. What we have found here in their homeland tells us another story. The Black Dragonflight are the beings who control the orcs of Blackrock. We suspect that it is the Black Dragonflight that fuels them with rage and hostility. We now know that the orcs are not fighting of their own accord, but are now bent under the fiery will of the Black Dragons within the mountain. This dangerous revelation is delivered first to Magistrate Solomon in nearby Lakeshire, then to High Lord Fordragon himself, though the claim is apparently not substantial enough to warrant reinforcements. Lady Prester, once again playing devil's advocate, encourages Bolvar to wait for further proof, advising that resources being used against the Horde cannot be diverted for the sake of rumors. The argument is put to rest by Bolvar, who compromises and enacts you as a deputy of the Stormwind Marshals, encouraging you to find more proof of Black Dragon influence in the region. With this new goal in mind, Marshal Maxwell in the Burning Steppes awaits your arrival. He tells you that there was in fact a large cache of information collected by the leader of the company, Marshal Reginald Windsor, but he has since gone missing. Another member of the company known as Ragged John is nearby, at Flame Crest, and he's willing to say all he knows on the matter. While scouting through Blackrock Mountain, Windsor was caught in the midst of a battle between the orcs and Dark Iron dwarves, bitter rivals within the mountain who still fight for control of the central levels. Though the orcs were defeated, the Dark Irons also have no love for the Alliance, only sparing Windsor due to the family heirloom he wielded, the majestic hammer Ironfoe, gifted to his ancestor by the dwarves. Ironfoe was taken, given to their Emperor Thorasan, and Windsor was cast into the dungeons of Blackrock Depths, his evidence stolen as well. Entering the depths with your allies, Windsor can fortunately be located in the first wing of the dungeon, only requiring a key from High Interrogator Gerston to open his dimly lit cell. And yet, it will require more than physical liberation to convince Windsor to leave and seek retribution, having failed in the same task you now hold. Bolvar is a fool. I was gathering his precious proof so I could shove it down his throat. Proof stands 2 feet away from him, and he does not see. As for my data, it's lost. Should I ever find Ironfoe and make it out of this labyrinth, my first stop will be Stormwind, to place my hammer in between that reptile's eyes. Leave me. Reporting this sad turn of events to Maxwell, it seems the story might be over, but in reality, we just have to find another lead. Any of the mobs in Blackrock Depths now have a chance of dropping a crumpled up note from the Emperor himself, which reads the following. Sweet irony, the fall of the Broken Alliance. If it were not for General Angerforge's diligence, we may have never discovered the pattern to the encryption. Argolmach is almost done with the decryption of Windsor's notes. Our Lord will rise from the depths and crush any that remain. At last, the whereabouts of the lost information are now revealed, and letting Windsor know sparks a fire within him once more, though he is still too weak to think about escape. In the meantime, traveling deeper inside Shadowforge City to find the information is your top priority. General Angerforge and Golem Lord Argolmach both have pieces of the intel, which curiously are not notes in the typical sense, but are instead ancient tablets with crimson runes on their surface. With the tablets recovered, a jailbreak is on the horizon. This unlocks a lengthy escort quest that has you free Windsor, then liberate practically the entire prison block to rescue some of Windsor's other squad members. Let me rephrase that. This isn't just an escort quest, this is the escort quest. So much so that entire Blackrock Depths runs are put together just for players running this quest. It's an ordeal, but well worth the great dialogue we get from Windsor as he gets back into his groove. Administering fists of fury. I bet you're sorry now. Can you feel the power? It's time to rock. Eventually reaching the entrance to the dungeon, Windsor departs, hoping to rendezvous with you back in Stormwind soon for the final confrontation. While we're still somewhat in the dark about what's going on, the clues have been there from the start, and stopping by Morgan's vigil on the way out of the zone drops perhaps the most concrete evidence yet of who we, and the entire kingdom, have really been up against. Simply amazing. Windsor stormed through here not 5 minutes ago. He makes some grand claims, but purports they are supported by his evidence. He is on his way to Stormwind now to confront Bolvar and Lady Presta. The pieces are falling into place, and the climax of the story is about to unfold. By this time, your adventures across Azeroth have spanned dozens of zones and hundreds of quests, and from a lore perspective, every choice you've made as a human has led to this: 60 levels of exploration and adventure. The details seen in this section are phenomenal, and I'm going to take some time and analyze what's really going on here. At long last, we have reached the Great Masquerade. At the gates of Stormwind, we meet up with Windsor atop his steed, ready as ever to take down the hidden darkness within the capital. He begins by dropping this bombshell. As you have no doubt ascertained by now, Lady Presta is a Nixia, brood of Deathwing, twin to the Tyrant of the Spire, Varian.
For too long she has held our kingdom in her captivating gaze. Even the High Lord is controlled by her trickery, a puppet. It all ends today. The spell will be broken. As was fated a lifetime ago in Karazhan, monster, I come, and with me I bring justice.
Let's pause right there. While longtime players of course already know about this twist, new players who discover it for the first time will be understandably surprised. This reframes all the interactions you've had with Lady Prester over the course of the game, and Bolvar as well, not to mention your perspective on the story of all the human lands, the secret funding of the Defias, the abandonment of the kingdom by Stormwind's armies, orc and dragon encroachment into human zones, the kidnapping of the true king Varian Wrynn. All of it has been orchestrated by Onyxia in a human disguise, working for years to infiltrate the House of Nobles and gather power within the court. The source of the poison has been discovered. Now it's time to destroy it. The march to the keep is not without hardship. Onyxia has called for the immediate arrest of Windsor on charges of treason, and the Stormwind Guard, led by General Marcus Jonathan himself, bar the way. It is only after appealing to the general's humanity does he stand down, disobeying a direct order to bring about the truth. It seems Windsor has quite the reputation within the marshals, as many of the guards are in awe as he and the company pass through the city streets. This status as a true paragon of good builds at the entrance to the keep itself, where bravery and a bit of mysticism take center stage.
Be brave, friends. The reptile will thrash wildly. It is an act of desperation. The dragon hides behind a royal facade. The tablets will reveal her for what she is. If what I have seen holds true, I will not survive this battle, friend. It is you who must finish what I started.
This is the second mention of a sort of premonition or prophecy given to Windsor about this encounter, and while we don't know how or why this happened, it certainly seems like he knows this is the end of the line. He is marching to his doom, and does so anyway, willing to sacrifice himself to redeem the entire kingdom. A true hero by any measure. Entering the throne room, Windsor tells Prince Anduin to run to safety, marching straight up to the beast. The entire scenario is incredible, and I won't read the entire transcript here, but I do want to hit some of the major points.
The masquerade is over, Lady Prester, or should I call you by your true name, Onyxia?
You will be incarcerated and tried for treason, Windsor. I shall watch with glee as they hand down a guilty verdict and sentence you to death by hanging.
You will not escape your fate, Onyxia. It has been prophesied, a vision resonating from the great halls of Karazhan. It ends now. The Dark Irons thought these tablets to be encoded. This is not any form of coding. It is the tongue of ancient dragon. Listen, dragon. Let the truth resonate throughout these halls. Dragon filth! Guards! Guards! Seize this monster!
Lady Prester is indeed Onyxia, the great black dragon. Perhaps even more spine-chilling is the follow-up reveal of many of the royal guards transforming into black dragonkin, likely spending years embedded deep within the castle defenses. A great battle ensues, and though Onyxia is driven from the keep and her spawn are slain, Marshal Windsor is mortally wounded, as was foretold, in defense of his kingdom. The Great Masquerade has been unveiled, but there is one more chapter to cover on this grand journey. Onyxia's spell on Bolvar has broken, as is the enchanted medallion keeping him complacent. The dragon is gone, but not defeated, and it will be your most monumental task yet if you plan on bringing an end to the beast. In the aftermath of the battle, Bolvar provides one bit of guidance.
Reginald, I am sorry. A fragment of the shattered medallion is all I can offer. You must find another of dragon blood willing to assist you in forging a new key. Once you secure this key, you must travel to the Worm Bog in Dustwallow Marsh. It is there that you will find her lair. Where to find other flights willing to help? Sadly, I do not know. They are said to exist. Some may even work and live among us, disguised as one of the humanoid races. I wish you luck.
You and your allies must travel far and wide to find one willing to help you. In Winterspring, above the cave of Maz Thoriel, stands Hale, a matron of the Blue Dragon Flight. She explains that to access Onyxia's lair, The amulet must be infused with the blood of another black dragonkin, General Dracasath within Blackrock Spire. This mini-raid is likely the highest caliber content you've attempted so far, and with the most players, but it's overall not too different from a dungeon, and with a bit of effort, Dracasath is dethroned. With the blood acquired, Hale reforges the medallion into the Drakefire amulet, which grants passage to the dragon as long as you have it equipped or in your inventory. The journey back to the marsh is a raid of vengeance. Hooves thunder over the smoldering ground, and within a dark cavern, Onyxia lies in wait. A few dragon spawn patrol the passageway, but the broodmother herself is of course the main target. From bellowing roars to breath attacks and a swarm of raging whelps, the battle is fierce, but eventually the spawn of Deathwing falls, ending one of the greatest threats to the human lands once and for all. The last step is to bring the head of Onyxia back to Stormwind, where Bolvar gives one final proclamation.
By Uther's beard! For so many years I was held under her captivating gaze. Finally, to see justice meted and the honor of Stormwind restored. Today, we celebrate this glorious victory.
And with that, everybody present in the capital receives a 2-hour buff that increases critical strike chance and attack power. A cool community reward for finishing off the first epic raid boss of the game. This entire questline, from your early level 50s all the way to max level, sets up the transition from the open world to the level 60 raids perfectly. World quests, then high level dungeons, then full on 40 player raids. This is the classic experience. And even after all this time, perhaps many weeks or even months of playing, the words of the narrator from the very beginning still ring true.
You must defend the kingdom against the foul mongrels that encroach upon it, and hunt down the subversive traitors who seek to destroy it from within. Now is the time for heroes. Now humanity's greatest chapter can be told.
From a simple explorer in Elwynn Forest to the conqueror of a dragon's lair, you are the embodiment of a new age of heroes. As with any MMO, the content machine keeps rolling, but in terms of the vanilla human experience within World of Warcraft, this is its conclusion. Conspiracies, monsters, dungeons, heroes, a dragon. There's so much to discover, and over the course of this 2-part project, I hope you've learned something new about why this journey is so captivating for players even 2 decades later. Thank you all so much for watching. To everyone who has tuned in throughout the summer, I really appreciate it, and the past few months have seen the second highest spike in channel growth ever, which is amazing. The summer flame dims, but there are still more stories to be told. Until next time, may the Force be with you.